What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. Now, in this video, I'm going to build a hardwood version of this prototype Camlock Moxon Vise that I built. I've already done a video on the concept and design of this and how it all works and how it all functions. So if you've not seen that, I'll link it here. Go back and watch that first. When you have watched that, then come back and this will make a lot more sense. But I'm really happy with the design. It works really, really well. It's essentially a flat pack vise. You can take apart, pack away, and when you want to use it, put it together and clamp it to your bench, or use a holdfast to clamp it to your bench, and you have a really strong Moxon vise that's no screws, no metal parts. And yeah, anybody can build in our workshop, any woodworker, any hobbyist, they can build this thing and they have themselves a vise for very little cost. Now, I like it so much, like I say, I want to build a hardwood version of it. So that's what we're going to do today. So what I'm going to cover in this video is how this vise is assembled. I'll give you the dimensions of the parts. I'll show you how I made the parts. It's not a super in-depth build. It's very, very simple and very, very easy to make. So it's not going to be too in-depth, so don't worry. I have all the parts milled up already, so they're ready to go. So the vise itself is going to be made from maple. The Tenon Arms are going to be made from walnut, and the handles, the camlock handles, are going to be made from ash and walnut. And I'll show you all those pieces now. Let's have a look. So the components I'm going to use for the hardwood version, this is the front of my vise now. It's a piece of maple, so it is inch thick maple, two pieces laminated together, so it's 50 mil or 2 inches thick. Here's the back of my vise. Again, very, very simple. Now, I hadn't enough maple to keep the two of these boards 600, so I had to put one at 600 and one at 500, like the front of the vise. So I have to cut this down here and out here, take that piece and glue it on down here. That will make the feet of my Moxon vise, which I will clamp to the top of the bench. Again, I'll show you that later on. I'm just flying through this now. The two Tenon Arms, again, two pieces of walnut. That will be my two Tenon Arms. They're going to be cut out of that. I'm keeping everything to the same dimensions as the plywood. So these are all 18 millimeters or 3/4 inches. So that is essentially it, all broken down for you now, guys. Again, the cam arms, I have two pieces of walnut for the handle, and the tops of the cams then are going to be made out of these ash squares that I have. Again, everything is taken down to 18 millimeters, the same as the plywood. So everything is 3/4 inches in diameter or in thickness. So there we go. Let's rock on now and start getting this thing together. Okay, my first job then is to cut down the back of my vise to make my feet. And like I explained to you already, I was short maple, otherwise I would have kept these two boards at 600 millimeters. I'd only have to do one cut and cut the feet. I would have been done. So I have to cut this and get these glued up. So that's the first job I want to do. So we'll just get this into our vise and we can cut down both sides of this, just like so. And we can use the first one as our guide. There we go, same on the other side. Voila, just like that. Okay, you can see what I was at there. So this is going to make up the feet, or where I clamp on my Moxon vise. Now, like I say, if you guys are making it, you will leave your two pieces be 600, so you won't have to go to this trouble that I'm going to now. But I'm using what I have in the shop, and I ran out of maple, so it's no big deal really. So I'll just cut those two blocks. They're going to sit on there. So I have to clamp now and glue these in place. And I will be carving and finishing all this up nicely when the glue has set. So they'll go like that. We're going to round the corners of our Moxon vise. And we'll round off these edges as well. And then these will make up the 2 feet that I will be clamping or using my holdfasts to hold this to the bench to. So I'll get on and glue this now, and then we can move on with the rest of the project. Okay, so here is the cam, the prototype cam that I made. So it's a 20 mil hole. This measurement here is 25 mil, so I've left an inch or 25 mil to the back of the cam. It's just enough material so it supports it. It's 15 millimeters to this face. So this face, if you think about it, when the vise is open, that sits against the front of your vise, and then it rotates around to here, and then this face sits against your vise. So I like to keep this measurement, like I say, 2 to 2.5 times this measurement. So this is 15 mil, this is 30 mil, and that's the amount. It's the extra 15 mil that the front of the face of the vise is going to move and that the cam is going to move the vise this way. And it's that distance that sets up the relationship of the holes on the tenon arms. So the amount of distance you have here will determine the amount and the size of holes. So these are 10mm holes and are roughly spaced 20mm apart, and that makes all the slack up, and it means I have a hole for every single measurement with my 15mm. I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining this, but it'll make more sense when I assemble it all. So the larger your cam, the larger the distance you can leave between your holes, because it's the relationship between these holes and the distance that the cam can move the front of the vise that allows you to clamp all the measurements and all the in-between measurements, if that makes sense. So how to design the cam: take a square piece of timber, decide on your hole. So this is 20mm, so it's just over 3/4 of an inch. 18mm is 3/4 of an inch for you guys that are on Imperial. Leave enough meat to the back so you have support. Measure up then, whatever, this cam is going to be kind of small, so I decided on 15mm. You could do 20mm if you wanted. Then make this twice that distance, so that's 30mm. Then you can just draw a flat line here, curve around to this guy, a flat line here, and that's exactly how your cam is made. Nice and simple. Hopefully I've explained that well enough. You'll see me build them now. They're not actually that complicated. So let's rock on. Okay, so let's get on and build these cams. Now these are built from the same 3/4 inch birch ply as the rest of the vise, so they're exactly 18mm either side. So is my handle, 3/4 of an inch, and then that allows your tenon arm to sit in the middle, obviously, right? Nice and simple. So how I built these was I cut 3 squares roughly, or 4 squares roughly the size of my cam. So these are pieces of ash that I'm going to use. These are all exactly 18mm thick. So I'm going to double-sided sticky tape all these together so they're all held together. I want to keep my top edge, which is this guy, and my back edge exactly in line. They're not all exactly the same size, so I want to just keep the top and back edge exactly in line, and then I sticky tape these all together, and we shall make them all in one go. So I'll drill out the hole for my pin the whole way through these 4 pieces. That ensures that it's all lined up. Then I will put in this guy through it all to hold them together again, and we'll take it to the bandsaw and we'll cut the shape of all 4 pieces at the same time. That ensures all the cams are almost identical. So nice and simple, double-sided sticky tape. Let's get sticking these together. Just like that, and they are all stuck together. Okay, let's get these marked out. Now I kept, like I said, this edge and this edge the same so I can measure off that. So I'm going to measure in 25mm, which is right here, and then I'm going to measure down 15mm, which is right here. Then I can take my circle, see if I get a square first to make it easier for you guys to see. Square that line there, and square this line here. So there you go. My circle now needs to touch the top line and this back line. So I am 25mm to the back of this circle on my hole, and I'm 15mm to the top. So nice and simple, line him up. Again, this is only a rough guide. I'll be using a 20mm bit to drill this out. There we go. This will just illustrate how I built this thing. And then I want to measure 30mm to my face, which is right here. And we can square that line down. Okay, just like that. I'll give you a close-up of this. Okay, hopefully you can see that. It is unbelievably difficult to video all this stuff on your own, but hopefully I have that in shot. Do I have that in shot? I do. Okay, so there's the 25mm line into the back of our hole, and then we're 15mm down to the top to this line here, and there's the face of our cam. So we're going to leave a flat edge here, and we're going to draw an arc around to here. So again, I'm just going to freehand roughly around to the face. We will have a flat edge, and then we can leave whatever you want. So let's call this face. That's about 40mm I left on that one. So from there to there, that's 40mm, and then we can just curve that off there like that. Again, I like to just freehand stuff. A little bit more organic that way. Like I say, this is not an exact science. And that is roughly going to be the cam. Now I'm going to leave the back of this straight for now, so that'll line up my cam arms. These 2 straight edges will be glued in between. So I'll be able to use this straight edge and this straight edge to keep everything lined up and glued together, because I'm not using screws. I use screws on these guys, as you can see, to hold everything together, but we won't be doing that now. So we leave the back of our cams straight for now, and once the glue is set up and we have this all cut out, we can then shape our cam properly. So that's it, nothing more to it than that. Flat edge here, round it down so your cam slips around the face of your voice. Don't keep this corner too sharp, so you can round that off. Flat face to sit against your voice, and then just taper it off. It's just a nice design, whatever design you want to go with down here, it doesn't really matter. Just an opposite curve to this curve is usually good enough. So yeah, that's it. I like to freehand them. So that's it, that's the cam built. Now we'll drill this hole straight through the whole lot. We'll take it to bandsaw, we'll cut this, and we'll cut this, and we should be good to go. Okay, we're all lined up with our 4 pieces. I have a 20mm Forstner bit in the drill. Everything's ready to go. I'm using my fence. So again, I kept my top edge and this edge all aligned, so I can use this top edge now against my fence just to hold everything in place and drill through all these 4 pieces. So let's do it. Okay, now that we have our hole through the whole thing, I've just put a bar through the whole lot just to keep all them holes lined up, keep this edge and this edge lined up, and then we can cut our cams out on the bandsaw, all of them together. So they'll end up the same shape, nice and simple. Let's get on it. Okay, we have all our cams made. So that's our 4 cams. They're all exactly the same now. And I've just made up our Tenon Arms. So we need to make these first before we can glue our cams together to make sure everything is working. So again, double-sided sticky tape, stuck the 2 of these together, and drill the hole straight through them. To get my hole measurement, again, it's 15mm in from the face. Line up your cam then, and then keep the top of your cam flush with the top of your Tenon arm right here, and that'll give you your position for your hole, nice and simple. Then I measured down 30mm from the top and cut back at 45 so that we can clear our mechanism and we can round all that over and shape it when it comes to finishing this up. So nice and simple. So now we can make up our handles, and again I just have 2 pieces of walnut here. Again, cut a 45 in them just to make sure that when this is inside between the 2 cams, it can clear this the whole way around. And how we decide on that, again, very simple. So take our cam, push our bar straight through it, like that. Get your other cam on the other side. And this is the reason we kept this back edge flat now, so that we can line up this guy in here. We can shape it afterwards. So if I just catch that in there roughly, then I can just check how far up I want to keep up inside between these 2 as much as I can, and that I clear my mechanism the whole way up. So that's right about there, which is exactly where I have it marked. So you can mark that line then, there and there. You know exactly where you need to be, that this thing will work, and it clears it the whole way around. So now that I have that marked, I can take this back apart and clamp and glue these together. Now, I'll go do that, and when that's all done, I'll get back to you. Okay, there's our cam arms all glued up. Again, it's nice and simple. So just keep your bar in place, that'll keep your cams aligned. Mark the back here, keep all these surfaces flat so they can sit on top of your glue up surface or whatever you want to use, and that keeps everything aligned. Mark here, nice and simple, get a clamp on it, and then everything is aligned. You can't really go wrong. So there we go. Okay guys, I am knocking out the mortises, and I'm just using a bevel edge chisel to do that. It's the exact same thickness as the plywood. It's 18mm, so it's a 3/4 inch chisel. I took a 3/4 inch or 18mm Forstner bit, and I drilled out most of the material. Now, maple is hard. It's hard to sever its fibres. It doesn't give up too easy, so be careful with maple. So I marked everything out So you can see my lines are squared all the way around, so my mortises are marked back and front and they're lined up perfectly. Then I marked a center line of my mortise, drew that straight through. That lined up my bit the whole way through. Just make sure on your pillar drill that your bit is exactly at 90 degrees to your table on your pillar drill, otherwise your mortise will be slightly off, so just check that first. Before I went and drilled it then, I went along with the chisel along the lines and just tapped it down so that my edges were pre-cut. It's just in case the forstner bit caught anything and tore anything out, because like I say, maple is quite a hard wood and its fibres are quite hard to break. It's not like pine. If this was just pine, I'd be able to go through this whole mortise with my chisel and the fibres would just sever naturally, but yeah, maple is good and strong stuff, so it doesn't like to give up the fight too easy. So that's all you got to do. Just mark your mortises out, square everything around, make sure you square it back all the way around, measure from one side, so whatever side your face edge is, that's where you want to square all your lines off, and take it to the drill press, drill it all out, and then just clean it up with your chisel, which is what I'm doing now. So that's how I did that. Again, nice and simple, there's not much to it, just keep everything nice and square and going through. That's another quick tip for you then. When I'm cutting out my mortises, I like to keep my mortise lengthways away from me. It's just so I can keep my chisel perpendicular, so that when I'm lining up my chisel, I'm looking down my chisel this way, so I can see that I'm nice and straight and lined up with the wall of my mortise. That's it. Rather than working end on with your chisel this way, you can't see if you're straight. You can see if you're on your line all right, but you don't know if you're perpendicular to your piece. So I like to cut my mortises like this, line everything up, make sure my chisel is exactly perpendicular, and just tap it home. Work your way down. Once most of the material is out, this is pretty quick. So go halfway from one side, flip it over, and go halfway from the other side. Nice and simple. Okay guys, we have the mortises all knocked through now, so we're looking good front and back. Again, you're not making a joint out of this, so just remember that has to be able to slide in and out without too much impediment. You can make them snug, but you know, just a nice fit, so it doesn't have to be like a super tight joint, so you can leave a little gap either side of your mortises, just to let your tenon arms slide in and out. That should do the trick. Again, it's maple, it's hard work, it's just a bit of elbow grease, so a good sharp chisel and a nice big mallet, and you'll get through it. If you don't have a mortiser, that's the way to go. So yeah, next up we have to do now is tidy everything up. So I need to joint all this. I'm going to put this in the vise now, joint the top, get it all nice and smooth. We just tidy up all the sides, get it all squared up, sand the front. I have a bit of tear out in the front that I have to deal with, so we get all that sorted out, and then we can look at putting the final shape on this. So I'm kind of debating whether I round over the edges, I might, or I put a chamfer in the front, the same as the plywood version. So we'll see. We'll get everything tidied up and then we'll get back to that. So let's get on it. Okay guys, I am all sanded up, squared up and ready to go. Now I'm getting an unbelievable amount of tear out in this maple for some reason, using the high angles, the low angles, whatever I go at it with, it's tearing out like crazy. So rather than risk putting a chamfer in the front of this now, because it's this front board that's tearing out the most, I don't want to get a big chunk of tear out here. What I'm going to do is round off the corners instead of putting a chamfer on it. So I'll just measure down an inch from the top and measure in an inch and just put a little radius there, and the same on this side. I'm going to radius off the little feet of the Moxon Vise, and yeah, we'll have just rounded corners with a straight edge on top. That's the look we're going to go for. Now I'll take this to the bandsaw and just nip off these corners, and then I'll do the final shaping with the saw rasp. So I'll get this cut and then I'll get back to you. Okay, I just knocked the corners off on the bandsaw. We're all set up in the vise here now, just for the tenon arms in to keep everything aligned, and I'm just going to round over these corners with this, one of my favourite tools, as some of you guys will know. This is the Japanese Shinto rasp, or a Japanese saw rasp, and when it comes to carving stuff, this is fantastic. I've made many a guitar neck with this tool, axe handle, whatever. They work brilliantly. Nice and simple. Just going to follow my line, establish my curve, just like that, and then we'll work that all the way across. that doesn't look too bad at all. It is literally that quick. This thing is such a great tool. It's one of my favorite tools to use. I love carving wood, and this makes it so easy. So we'll round that now with a bit of sandpaper. I'll do the same to the 2 feet, and that is the vise, or the main component of the vise, almost complete. Then it'll be on to sorting our tenon arms and our cam arms. Okay, this is day 2, and the bulk of the work is done now. So that's all sanded up, shaped and ready to go. Today we need to sort out our cam arms, so I need to put a final shape on these. I'm still not 100% sure what I'm going to shape these into yet, but it'll be an organic process. I'll cut a curve in this and then I'll begin to shape it with the Shinto rasp, and we'll see what we end up with. We'll try and keep the 2 of them identical. Then I need to drill out the tenon arms and add some brass to the front of the vise just to protect it. And yeah, that's more or less it. So hopefully a quick day today, fingers crossed. So let's get on it. Okay, so I've just free-handed a curve just to match this on the tenon arm to come out here. And I'm just going to rough this in with the bandsaw on both ones. And we'll try and keep it even, but like I say, this is going to be kind of an organic process. It's not a set design, so we'll let something emerge and hopefully it will be nice. Let's do it. Okay, there we are, roughly shaped out, and I actually quite like the size and proportion it is now. So now we just need to take all the square edges off and make them nice to hold in the hand, soften these edges here, and see what we can come up with. So again, one of my favorite tools, the Shinto rasp. I'm just going to carve away at this and we'll get a kind of an organic shape. Let's do it. Okay, there we go. Our handles are all carved up. So just rounded over all the edges, put a nice little carve in them. They feel really nice in hand. Again, they're not exactly the same. It's not a precise engineering we're doing here. We're carving, but they turned out really nice. I'm really happy with how they feel in hand and in the shape of them. Then I just softened the edges here. So there's kind of a big step down between the ash and the walnut. So I just want to soften that transition. So just rolled over the edges and just rolled off some of the edges of this, just to make them that look a little bit nicer, and not to have such a harsh step down between the two. I think that looks quite nice. So I'm happy with them. Now I've been to the lathe in the meantime, and I've turned 2 sapele pins to go into these. So now we need to fit our handles to our tenon arms, and then we need to mark our tenon arms for our pinholes. So let's do that. Okay, so you can see what it's going to look like now. It's going to look really, really nice when they get a finish on this and all those different colour woods. This is actually going to be quite a lovely piece, I think. So you can see the little sapele pins are in now. So next thing we want to do is mark out for our pinholes. Now, in order to do this, I want to make sure that my cam is flat against my face this way. That's the furthest my cam is going to go in, or my tenon arm is going to go in. So at this point, I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to just want to mark the top of these guys. So I'm just going to put an R on this and an R on this just for right side, and mark this left and left, because there might be some little discrepancy in the cam, and so I want to mark the tenon arm for the cam. So what we're going to do is, like I say, turn it to its open position, push it all the way against the vise, and then I'm just going to draw a line back here so I can see that. Do the same on the left hand side, push that all the way home, and then just draw a line here. Now there might be a mil or two in the difference. That's why we want to mark the cam to the tenon arm and keep those two together. So now that I have those 2 lines marked, I can take this all apart again, and then we can mark it out for the pinholes. Let's do that. Okay guys, this is my tenon arm marked out now. Hopefully you guys can see this. Again, this will sound way more complicated than it actually is. It's nice and simple. So this original line is the back of my vise. So that's where I want my first hole to be, just in case I want to clamp any really skinny material such as a veneer or anything like that. So what I done then was I measured from here intervals of 15 millimeters and 1 back the way, so that I have a line that intersects here. So then I took my sliding bevel, set that to an angle of 60 degrees, and then just drew a line at each of those 15 millimeter points straight up. Then pick your first line. Wherever it intersects at 15 millimeters, draw a mark. That's where your first hole is going to be. On your next line now, you want to half that distance. So then I put little marks here at 7.5mm intervals, which is in between all these. Then whatever on the second line then, I mark 3 holes at the 7.5mm point where it intersects. Then onto the next hole, the 15, onto the next hole, the 7.5, the 15. So it's the full measurement, the half measurement, the full measurement, the half measurement, the full measurement, the half measurement, all the way along. That'll give me 3 holes offset this way, and then 3 holes in the middle of these 3 holes on the next line. Then I have 3 holes in the middle of these 3 holes on the next line. So you're covering, without putting a row of holes all tight beside each other where the material could break out, you're offsetting those holes. So it's literally just a row of holes at an angle. The next set of holes are in between all those holes, in between those holes, and the whole way out. So you're covering all these measurements, distances, the whole way out, without weakening the material too much. So hopefully that makes sense. So whatever measurement you decide to go with, whether it's 10mm, 20mm, whatever, you measure it out, draw your line up at 60 degrees, and then measure the center of those things. And that's how you mark out your holes. So I'll drill all this out now and it'll make sense. So hopefully I explained that well. Okay, all the holes are drilled. It's just a pattern of offset holes. That's all it is. It's nothing too more complicated than that. Now, all that's really left to do is get some finish on all these components, and then I can put the brass pieces on the front of the vise. So yeah, bit of Danish oil. And it really is only going to be a bit because that's all I have left. So let's get that on. Where is my tissue? These handles are the ones I'm most looking forward to getting some oil on. Okay, we are all ready to go. Everything is made up, sanded and finished. I've decided on not putting the brass pieces on the front because I actually think it takes away from the look. The all wood look is really, really nice, so I'm going to stick with that. So now we've nothing to do when you get this thing assembled. So let's get it clamped to the bench for the first time. Two nice old-fashioned holdfasts now would be really nice with this vise, just to go the whole hog, as they say. Right, there we go. It is all finished up, and I have to say I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. It's a really nice vise, and it should inspire me to improve my woodworking. So when I'm making a nice handmade box or something and I can use this vise, it might give me some inspiration to improve my skills, as they say. So it's good and strong. It's a powerful clamping force, just like the plywood version, but you have 2-inch thick maple now, so it really does grip that material. I really like the proportions to the handles. They're really nice to hold in hand. I love the contrast between the walnut and the ash and the sapedi pins and the maple. Turned out really, really nice. I have 2 small pins in the back, so they're actually left over from assembling a child's toy. They came with the tools for assembling it, so it's perfect. It's an 8mm pin, so something like that is ideal for the back. It's all you need just to pop that in there. Nice and simple, just like that. So stick a piece of timber in it. Again, nice and simple. Put out your vise, close it in, push in your tenon arms, and just lock it down. And that is welded in there now. And the great thing about the Moxon Vise is there's nothing in the middle, so you can drop long boards all the way to the floor and clamp it. It's clamped to the top of your bench, so it's an extremely sturdy vise. So when you're cutting dovetails or anything like that, it's anti-vibration. There's no vibration going, all the power of the saw is going into the piece, so it's really nice and everything is clamped. And it's also a nice working height, so it raises it up off the top of the bench too. So there we go. And if you want to take it out, it's just a one-handed operation. That loosens it up, pop it back in, just like the plywood version I showed you. And if you want to clamp an angle piece too, that's also possible. We can capture a few degrees here to put in a wedge piece, and then just like a screw version, we can clamp an angle piece. So there we go, guys, an all wood Moxon Vise. Nice and simple. Happy days. Right guys, there we go. That is the hardwood version of the Moxon Vise to go alongside the plywood prototype. So whether you decide to build it from hardwood or plywood, that should be enough information in that video now to get you through the whole build. It's a really cheap and cost-effective way to build a vise. It's really, really strong, and they are a nice addition to any workbench or any workshop where you mightn't have too much space and need to put your vise away and you don't have much money to spend, but you'd like a project. There you go. It's a nice woodworking project and you end up with a really strong vise at the end of the day. So we have 3 vises here now: the plywood, the hardwood, and the plywood camlock leg vise. Now I do intend on doing a hardwood version of this in a future video, so I'm going to rebuild my workbench. I want to do something like a Roubeau style workbench from really nice hardwoods. It'll be a project that's coming up down the road sometime, and when I do it, I'm going to make this camlock leg vise from hardwood because I like it so much, and all the vises on my bench will be all timber with no metal parts. And yeah, because I really like the idea, and after all, we are working with wood, so let's keep it all wood if we can. So there you go, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Now, 75% of you guys out there watching these videos are not subscribed. So if you like this content, please think about hitting that subscribe button. You would really help me out a lot. And if you can find it in your hearts to hit a thumbs up button if this has been useful to you as well, go ahead and do that. Again, it would help me out a lot. So there we go, guys. I'm going to get out of here now. 3 vises all ready to go. I'll talk to you in the next one.